A BB48 straight black pride, brothers and sisters. This is your brother in DC Radical 1 with another episode of DC's Radical Thoughts. And this is episode 8, and we will call it The Rise of the Honorary Whites. And this short discussion was sparked by seeing presidential candidate NIkki Haley, and they were, whatever I was watching, they were discussing her inability to simply answer a simple question where the answer was slavery. And they were talking about just talking about the political stuff and how she looked, and this was before the caucus, or whether she could win the caucus and all this type of stuff. And then it dawned on me that I had seen another Indian, at least I think he's an Indian guy, that's also running for president of the United States. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he's also running as a Republican. So then it just dawned on me. I'm like, wait. We have two, I'm assuming, Indian Americans running for president of the United States, running as Republicans, right? And if you look on the other side, and you being completely honest, in essence, Kamala Harris is running for president of the United States because the chances of Joe Biden not being able to finish his presidency are 50-50, I would say. And so if that's the case, then Kamala Harris is in essence running for president of the United States, even if she's officially listed as the vice president. So with that being said, and because of her racial heritage, she's 50% Indian. She's more Indian than she is anything else. In essence, in the grand scheme of things, you have 3 Indian Americans, if you will, running to be president of the United States. This is from the 2 major parties. So you have more Indian Americans running to be president of the 2 major parties than you've had African American presidents in the history of America. Because remember, Barack Obama is not an African American president. Barack Obama is half African, half European. I mean, I guess in a weird way, you could argue him being an African American president if you think of it that way. But in reality, since he didn't even grow up here, let's just be honest, you have a mulatto president. So you had half a black president. How about that? And so when I started thinking about it, I was kind of perplexed. I'm like, okay, what is happening here? And when I looked at it, and I'm listening to NIkki Haley stumble around and try to avoid saying anything about racism, and then it was so funny because I was thinking about it, and then the next day I saw some people talk about her, some show, and then they were like, and we're going to have on Kamala Harris at the same time. And I just laughed to myself. I was like, okay, it's time for this. It's obviously, this is timely because, they're throwing it right in front of me. And what I realized, I'm like, okay, these Indian Americans, they're the new honorary whites. Now, someone's going to ask, what do I mean by the new honorary whites? And what I mean in this case is that and I guess other people use the term model minority, I should say, that they have used a lot for in the last couple of decades for I guess you call them East Asians, like Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, things like that. People like that. It appears now that the Indians are taking their place, at least, because now that I think about it, didn't they have some movies recently or some TV shows featuring some Indian families? And I know they had this Indian actress, they were trying to make her big a few years ago. She had some type of FBI show, some type of crime show, where she was the central figure. I don't even remember the time frame. I just remember it was recently. But at least in the political, what I think is happening in the political world here with Nikki Haley and the other gentleman, I think that the Republicans are looking for people who are quote unquote people of color who fit in with them ideologically and don't carry the baggage of race per se. And that's why I say they're honorary whites, because they didn't grow up here. They don't have ties to the overtly racist times. Notice I said overtly racist times of the 50s and the turbulent times of the 60s. And so they have no experience of that. So their experience of America is not that. So when they come up and they start denying the importance of race, they're denying it from a place of sincerity based upon their lack of experience of the reality of what America has always been, right? And so because they are willing and able to take that position and to like I said, having not really experienced, in fact, no, not more than likely, absolutely having not experienced the type of racist vitriol, hatred, suspicion, character denigration, and all of the various attacks that black people have faced, right? This gives the Republicans cover to say, well, we're not a racist party, because two of our candidates were non-white people, including a quote-unquote woman of color, right? And so from the Republican perspective, I think that's the motivation of having these people or allowing these people to be in the race, the motivation to put money behind Nikki Haley. She, at this point, from what the political pundits are saying, appears to be the backup plan if Mr. Trump is unable to run because of his legal issues, or whatever the case may be. And so when I look at this now, it's interesting, because if you look at the situation for black people, if you have Indians and Asians and they become the political allies of the Republicans, and Joe Biden has already announced, and he's shown it with policy, that the Hispanics are basically the new Negroes and are going to replace black people, because that's basically what he told those black leaders when he said, y'all going to have to learn to get along with them, blah, 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 blah. I don't know how we forgot that. So if that's the case, the Asians will be the new honorary whites. The Hispanics will be the new honorary Negroes. And black people in America will just not be politically relevant anymore. And that's what, at least from the political landscape, as far as electoral politics, that looks to be the play in 2024. Now, they have been having a lot of discussion about Joe Biden losing support amongst not just African Americans, but they also emphasize Latinos. And so, if that's the case, then you may even see the Democrats charge Kamala with bringing in more of the Asian vote and reaching out to the Asian community. But the point of all this is from the black perspective looking at it, it looks very much like black people really don't have a political future in America. It looks like both major parties have decided that they are going to try to mobilize and organize these other quote-unquote minority groups into some form of coalition so that our vote is virtually neutralized. That's what it looks like from my perspective. And as I said before, the various Asians, like someone like Nikki Haley, she's so interesting because, number one, I still don't know how in the world she got to be the governor of South Carolina. I don't know how that happened. Two, which shows that that right there shows that she's an honorary white. Two, if you look at her, she's married to a European. I need to really research who her husband is because I haven't really looked into that. And to be honest, these Radical Thoughts episodes are supposed to be stream of consciousness, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't do research for these. I just churn them out as the thoughts come. But in essence, her husband is her handler. The same with Kamala Harris. Her husband, who's small hat, is her handler. I'm not sure about the other gentleman. I haven't really looked into him too much because I didn't think, and still don't think, that he has a chance to win. But when I look at the situation and look at the landscape, now I'm going to be paying more attention to see how are other Asian people portrayed in media. How do they start getting more of their own shows? Do they start getting more of their own movies? Like, how far are they willing to take this to incorporate these people as honorary whites? And the thing about it is, this type of thing puts the bootlicking Negroes, the Jesse Lee Petersons, and some of the black conservatives, this kind of thing can put them out of business because they're not needed. It's even the whites, it's less credible to see a jet black dude sit around and try to deny that America's history is racist or America is still racist. Even for them, it's a stretch for them to take that type of person seriously, because the reality of the situation is that all groups of people hate traitors in general, and just because a group of people will utilize a traitor doesn't mean that they respect a traitor. Whereas they will look at these Asians not as traitors, unless, of course, you find yourself in a situation where you're fighting India for whatever bizarre reason, which you can never put past the United States to start a war with anyone. But barring that type of situation, and it being American Pakistani American, Vietnamese, Chinese. Well, you got to put an asterisk by the Chinese, but Japanese, so forth, so on. The chances of them being put in a situation where they have to go directly against their own people or their home country to espouse their Americanism is small. Whereas with black people, any racial incident that occurs, a black person in the spotlight is, pulled in front to basically pick a side, in essence, right? If you put on MSNBC or whatever the case may be, then you get to rail against police brutality or whatever the situation is, and rail against rail against quote unquote white supremacy. On the other hand, if you put on Fox News and you're a conservative, then you have to go, your job is to come up here and justify why the person was murdered in a police situation, and talk about how dangerous the police's job is, and talk about how the crime affects your community too, and that your community is sick of crime. And while there may be kernels of truth in that, you're serving European interests. So, I'm gonna just keep an eye out on that situation and see, how far Nikki Haley can go and what the coverage looks like for her as far as politically, and see how far the media is willing to push the Asian to the front as the honorary white, and to see the reaction from the white public. How do they accept these people? How much they trust them. It's going to be interesting to see. But when I thought about the situation and it dawned on me, and I was really kind of shocked when I thought about the ramifications of it. I figured it would be something that was worth a discussion, amongst black people, as it's rare that something political occurs that involves quote unquote people of color, and it doesn't involve us in any way, shape, or form, and we can step away from it and analyze it and see what we can learn from it. So that's just my thoughts on that situation. I may it's extremely possible that once I really gather my thoughts, that I may do a part 2 of the honorary whites, because I just suspect that I've kind of accidentally stumbled onto something that may become more and more relevant over time, especially with the influx of, with basically the open border policy of Biden. We don't even know who's coming over here. There's a vast array of people, and so this honorary white phenomenon, as I've named it, is definitely something for us to pay attention to and see how far it goes, and how the various political parties and corporations and media, how they manipulate that situation to their best interests. So with that, brothers and sisters, this has been DC's Radical Thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And with that, I say a BB for ODA and straight black pride. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow us on our other social media platforms. On Instagram, we're at dc.radical1. On Twitter, we're at dc_radical_one. And the Cash App is $DC Radical 1. Again, thank you for subscribing. A big for ODA and straight